provider. And from there, once I became mayor, I left that position and went to where I work now, and I oversee or I assist with admissions.
Fantastic. You've been mayor now. You're in your just elected to your second term.
Yes, sir.
So you're in your fifth year. What got you interested? Were you just happening to be driving by City Hall and you said, I'd like to be mayor of Laverne. I think I'll go in and pull out papers.
I actually had no intention of getting into politics. I was showing up to meetings and listening, understanding what was going on in government, and slowly got involved with some public boards, Parks and Recreation, helping to develop our farmers market and our Veterans Memorial Wall. Then they had an election, so I just kind of threw my name in the hat. So I ran first time, didn't really understand everything I was doing, but came in third, and there was an opening. I was passed over for the fifth place position, and that kind of galvanized people 2 years later behind me to run for alderman again. Won that race, and then 2 years later, I then challenged the incumbent and became mayor. My big thing was I wanted to see change, and if I've got enough energy to complain about something, I've got enough energy to do something about it.
What kind of change?
Well, I wanted to see as far as prioritization on roads, on infrastructure, on keeping our internal infrastructure, which isn't just roads and water and sewer lines, but also our personnel, people who provide public works services, parks and rec services, police, fire, to make sure that we had the proper staffing to perform those as our city continues to grow. We've been stagnant for a number of years, and so wanting to prioritize that, wanted to prioritize spending and get things moving so that the city is progressing in a forward manner.
What's the history of Laverne, and even as a relatively newcomer to Tennessee, where did the name Laverne come from?
It's a French name.
Oh, okay.
And so we have a sister city in France, but the first postmaster for Laverne named it Laverne.
Ah, because California there's a Laverne, but it's the traditional Verne. What's the size of Laverne now? Population, square miles?
About 25 square miles and 42,000 people.
And it's a growth. You're growing because of a lot of the Davidson County spilling back into Rutherford County?
Well, not just Davidson County, but the whole region is growing as a whole. You've got Oracle coming in to Middle Tennessee. You've got Facebook. You've got multiple companies moving in. We had IC relocate their corporate headquarters from California to Laverne. Mm-hmm. Well, they brought a number of staff with them that relocate, and they're looking for areas to live that has quality of life, low taxes, affordable housing. So they're looking at all of that. So that's the driving thing, not just Davidson County and its tax and political stances.
Well, one of the most interesting things coming from California some 20 years ago, and the difference was even greater, where the housing was at its peak at that time in California, and the housing was still very affordable in Tennessee, and we're a state without a state income tax versus a state with the highest income tax, a state income tax, California. So the difference of cost was dramatic. It still is.
It absolutely is. That was a perk that IC was mentioning to their employees whenever they were relocating here was, not only is your money going to go farther, but you're going to have more things to do with it.
What are some of the opportunities and challenges as the mayor, as the leader of the city you're facing, and the wonderful potential that you're seeking?
Well, we have a ton of potential. We have a ton of jobs. We have a ton of homes. We have the largest industrial complex in the state. We have the largest subdivision in the state, as well as the third largest for the country. So that brings a lot of opportunity. We're working on growing our retail base. We've got BJ's Wholesale, which opens just here in May. Sherman-Williams just opened. I'm working with some developers right now on 3 different retail ventures that includes restaurants, grocers, and quality of life items for our residents. As far as challenges, there's always improvement constantly. And so, we're looking at all the different road projects. There's millions of dollars that is currently being spent on road projects and millions more needed for more road improvements. We've worked through and done master planning. We've set forward a 2040 plan just a few years ago. We are in the process of adopting our new zoning ordinance, which is the last time we did that as a city was 30 plus years ago.
Wow.
And so modernizing those zoning practices and building standards and setting design standards as a whole for the entire city so that it raises that quality for everyone.
How do you define quality of community?
Quality of community, there's multiple ways to provide it, but we want to make our residents as happy as possible while maintaining low taxes and being fiscally responsible.
What would be some of the complaints? Would barking dogs be a high complaint? Would parking issues be a high complaint?
They would be. Interestingly enough, development. People are concerned about the number of homes coming in and how they're coming in. Ideally, people want to look across the road, and if they've seen an open field for the last 20 years, even though they don't own it, they still want that field to remain open. And just listening to people, that's the same whether that's Laverne, Smyrna, Murfreesboro,
Anywhere
Eagleville.
in the United States.
People want that, but at the same time, you have to balance that. And while working together with community leaders to maintain character, at the same time, continue to take steps to move the city as a whole forward.
Do you have you're 42,000 now, following the 2020 census, correct, in population?
The 2020 census was about 38. We're at 42 now, and we are about to undertake a special census this upcoming fiscal year.
And you're becoming a younger community?
Yes, from the 2020 census, the average age was about 32.
And your schools are growing?
Schools are definitely growing. We're hopeful that some of our partners in Rutherford County Schools, like the chairwoman Tammy Sharp and Katie Darby.
Tammy will be on the air here next month with us.
Yes, we're hopeful that they can find some land to develop a new school. Years ago, we were supposed to have another high school built closer to Lake Forest. That did not happen, and so if growth keeps happening across all of Rutherford County, you're looking at busing kids further, and that's not something any parent wants to hear.
You know, the interesting thing about busing, and when Dr. Sullivan was here a few weeks ago, and also Dr. Duke from Murfreesboro City Schools, and it was interesting, and most people don't realize that when we have cold, icy weather, the weather may be all right to walk to school or drive to school, but busing will determine whether the schools will stay open or not on a winter day. And we probably see more closed days because so many of our students in Rutherford County and other counties in Middle Tennessee are bused rather than commute or rather than ride bikes as we used to do to school.
Yes, well, as a parent, I would rather them side on the on caution.
Exactly.
As we saw with the storms, the windstorms that we had, I mean, the actual rain was very brief, but the wind caused significant damage all across Middle Tennessee.
Including Laverne, did you have quite a few
Yes,
trees
sir.
down?
We had trees down, street lights, red lights down. We even had some building damage to our library.
Oh, really? And you have a public library?
Yes, sir. It's one of the finest ones in Rutherford County.
And highly used by families?
Yes, and we have a lot of different programs for the community. Whether it's for homeschoolers, for youth, for seniors. We also have a lot of meetings. We have a professional services and development meeting every month that's run by representatives in our community. You have classes with Motlow occurring there. You've got a bunch of different uses, and so it's a big staple of our community is our library. Miss Donna Bebout runs that as the director, and she does an amazing job.
Your description of the library, it's so super to hear because that's the description I love to hear of all public services. And even as a property owner in Laverne, I can tell you that the times I drive through Laverne, much of what I see I'm very impressed with. There's a great amount of care, there's a great amount of quality concern, there's a great amount of maintenance, and there's a great amount of public safety. So you are operating probably one of the finest communities in the state.
Well, thank you. I give credit to our staff, and we're trying to push the city in a positive direction. I know we're working with our codes department and our fire marshals to go through and hold all of our main commercial corridors to all of the code standards, to all the fire marshal standards, to make sure, number one, they're safe for their employees and for the community, but number one, to make sure that they hold to that high standard that we keep raising.
Do you subscribe to the word hire people who are caring? You want a caring employee.
Yes, sir. We absolutely do.
And what do you expect out of a public employee in terms of their service to the community?
Well, we want servant hearts for our employees, and we want someone who is knowledgeable and who will serve our community. And again, I know I've mentioned forward a couple times, but help to raise the standards and move the city forward. Someone who will work with the community exactly where they're at, and even if it's news that someone may not even want to hear, delivering it in a way that they can understand, that's concise, that's polite, and go from there.
And listen to the person. You know, too often we speak before we listen, and too often we're not really listening to what the citizen is saying in our public service. And it's not necessarily just a complaint. It's many times people are not, quote, knowledgeable about what a city can or cannot do.
Absolutely.
And if you're even talking about private streets, as we were talking off the air, versus public streets, you can't come in and repave a private street using public monies or public equipment or public manpower. You've got to let that be for the private HOA, for example, or private individuals.
Absolutely.
Parks and Recreation. Do you have a strong Parks and Recreation program?
We do, and we've got multiple programs. We've got, of course, coming up soon, our Easter drive-through. Then we have our block party, which is our kind of a spring fling event.
What's an Easter block party?
Well, that's two different things. You've got
okay.
Our Easter drive-through.
Oh, Easter drive.
Which is it started as a result of during the COVID years, and so we did not shut down our events. We kept them going because our community really needed it. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, they did. So we shifted over, instead of Easter egg hunt, to an Easter egg drive-through, and it works a little bit better because it's easier to manage, and at the same time, everyone leaves with something. You don't have a child upset because they did not get any Easter eggs just because they weren't as fast as everyone else. Mm-hmm. So we can do that, and it allows us a little bit of just a few moments of FaceTime, say, hey, how you doing? And get them some things for Easter. Our library is part of that.
Great.
And then in May, we have our block party, which is kind of like a spring fling, and it's the gateway to summer. So we have food trucks, we have music, we have different vendors, and then we also have combined in bringing in different trucks, whether it's police, fire, Smyrna ready mixers, tractor trailers, life lights, so that kids can actually get in there and see this equipment.
Where is this going to be?
This is at Veterans Memorial Park.
Okay. And what weekend? Is it a weekend?
So they're both going to be on Saturdays. So the Easter egg hunt will be on Saturday, April the 1st, and then the block party, I'm trying to pull that up right now on our phone. The Easter egg hunt will start at 10 a.m. Mm-hmm. And then the block party is going to be May 13th. It starts at 11 a.m. And it's just it's a fun community event. We have had Old Timers Day for a number of years. We're rebranding that into Laverne's Fall Festival, and we'll continue to see that grow and change over the years as well.
As I asked you off the air, tell me the history of the name Laverne and some of the history of the community.
Well, the name was by the postmaster, and so it is French, and so we've got a sister city in France. And at one point with the city was incorporated and then dissolved. And then
really?
Yes, sir.
There was a reason?
I'm pretty sure it was the Civil War. So.
Okay. We are going back.
And then in the 70s, it was reconstituted and has since grown and thrived from there. I believe it was a Board of Commissioners back then, and then they transitioned over to a Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and the city has progressed from there.
And how many staff members are with the city now?
About 240.
And a full-service city, from public safety to public works to building safety, city clerk's office, etc.?
Yes, sir. We've got codes, planning, engineering. We've got public works, police, fire, the whole works.
How often do people dream about if they had a magic wand to make Laverne the true jewel of Middle Tennessee? How many people dream and imagine and conceptualize about their community?
I'm sure many do. If we had, if we had just a blank slate to be able to build it as we want, things would look different. Absolutely, I believe that. But we work with what we have, and then we build from there. And so right now the big effort and the big push is our commercial corridor with redevelopment. We've got buildings that are decades old there, working with developers and then making sure that existing businesses fit the zoning that they're in.
Do you also see a replacement of old housing with new housing?
We do, and that's something we talked about beforehand.
Right.
Is even once you get to maximum development, every parcel of land is developed similar to how pretty much Nashville is. You then start to see redevelopment where existing homes are bought and changed, and whether it's flipped or completely demolished and rebuilt into something new. You see that, and we're kind of in a quasi area in between because our commercial area is seeing that while we're seeing new development come in for open land.
I used to use the word redevelopment as a city manager in California, but redevelopment became a very bad word legally and politically because it looked like the old urban renewal where a bulldozer would come in, knock down everything and rebuild, and all the lawsuits and all the people upset with the process of redevelopment. So I have always coined the word the renaissance of a community. So you have a renaissance of Laverne as an ongoing activity.
Yes, sir.
This is a question I generally ask to all of our elected officials that we've had on the Roundtable, and it takes a little bit of thinking about it before you actually answer it, but there is an answer. You are an elected official. You're responding to the public. You respond to needs. You respond to problems. You respond to issues, and you also get in front of the bus rather than behind the bus to make changes that are improving. If you had a very controversial item that you were to vote on, would you either vote your constituency or vote your conscience? If your constituency was opposite to what you, as a person with great experience, passion, and involvement in the community, where would you deal with the conflict between your conscience and the community?
Well, it's a balancing act, and you have to look at what is both good for the community and good for the city as a whole, in my case, for us being a city. And so that is a balancing act. And I won't say everything is 100%. If you have a controversial item, it's not going to be 100% of the people against it. Mm-hmm. We had a controversial rezoning for development. We had a lot of people come out against it. We had some people for it. At the same time, we have to look and see, is this something that will be beneficial to the community as a whole over the number of years and decades that it exists, or would not doing it be beneficial? Which would be the better route? And that's what that's kind of how I take it. There's no one clear-cut answer, because sometimes, yes, it's not beneficial for the community, so you don't go and do it, and you go with your constituents. But there's times where, in the long run, it is going to be beneficial.
How do you balance between immediate, short-term, and long-term?
Well, it's weighing the pros and cons of all of it.
So some things may have an immediate fix in the community, but on the long term, it may be a very serious issue.
Correct.
Or vice versa.
Yes.
Maybe a hard fix, but a long-term benefit.
Yes.
We'll be right back with the mayor of the city of Laverne, Mr. Jason Cole, talking about his wonderful community, its present, its past, and we'll be talking quite about its future. Stand by.
Tire World's annual at-cost tire sale is back. Now through Saturday, we will be selling all tire brands with no markup. In addition, there will also be manufacturer rebates on brands such as Michelin, Cooper, and General as well. With these rebates, you're now getting tires less than cost. This is the biggest sale we have, so if you know you need tires, this is the time to do it. Call Tire World today. You will not want to miss this one-week only tire sale.
At Tire World, we keep your family running. Hey guys, this is Scott. You know, there's a lot of people talking about testosterone. You hear it everywhere, but do your homework and make sure when you go to a provider, go to one you can trust. Personally, I recommend Low T Center. It's where I get my levels checked. Low T Center exclusively specializes in men's wellness, and they check all your levels, not just your testosterone. And they determine the cause of any symptoms you're having and whether you're a candidate for low T or something else like low thyroid or sleep apnea. Typically, their annual health assessment is completely covered by health insurance, and they check everything, including PSA, which is your prostate levels. And they also check thyroid, liver, and kidney function, cholesterol, glucose levels, and more. Low T Center also has affordable and convenient at-home treatment options. Prioritize your health in the new year. Schedule your annual health assessment at Low T Center today at lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by the law offices of John Day and Americare Pest Control.
This is a paid legal ad.
When a family member is lost as a result of someone else's negligence, the grief can be unbearable. It also leaves you with a lot of questions like, how did this happen? Who's responsible? And is my family going to be okay? That's a lot to go through, but with the law offices of John Day on your side, you don't have to go through any of it alone. We understand what you're going through, and we have the experience to get the answers, justice, and compensation your family deserves. Call the law offices of John Day.
Lots happening here in the heart of Tennessee, and WGNS welcomes you to the TSSAA Blue Cross State Basketball Championships. This Saturday morning from 8 until 3 in the afternoon, the Covenant Church is having a big yard sale over at the church on Brinkley Avenue. All sorts of treasures, including some delicious food. That's the big yard sale this Saturday from 8 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon over at Covenant Church, 1124 Brinkley Avenue. And remember, Blues in the Borough is this Saturday night at 7 o'clock over at the Patterson Community Center. 7 o'clock this Saturday night. And there's a vendor meeting for those who want to be in the farmers market. That's going to be 9 o'clock Tuesday morning, March 21st, over at the Lane Agri-Park Auditorium. And the day after that, same location. That's where they'll be giving away bare root tree seedlings to Rutherford County landowners. And that starts at 9 o'clock Wednesday morning, March 22nd. Need to be there early because when they're gone, it's over. And those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Good Neighbor weather.
See mostly sunny skies this afternoon, high in the upper 60s. South winds at 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. Tonight, good chance for rain late, cloudy, low near 50. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Vujcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 41.
Broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios, MTE Sharing Change is funded by members who round up their electric bills to the nearest dollar each month as a donation and support hundreds of local nonprofits. Find out more at sharingchange.org.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Hello again, Bill Krause on the Roundtable, WGNS, and we are having a wonderful visit with a gentleman who, in my opinion, is the epitome of political leaders of local communities, because he isn't just a man who brings an expertise into the City Hall. He brings a passion, and he brings a love, and he brings a comprehension of what makes it tick. Let's talk about the word politics. I teach American government to quite a few classes, and probably my one concern is what today's young people, and I only can measure that by roughly 200 students, of what they consider the word politics as nasty, as lies, as something they want to stay far, far away from. But tell me what politics is really, in your experience and opinion, and why young men and young women, actually men and women of all ages and interests, should consider as part of service to life.
Well, it's just like you just mentioned, it's service. That's service to the community and setting a vision, wanting to see your area, whether it's your county, whether it's your city, town, whatever you are over, to do better and to bring ways to make that better. Like I mentioned before, if you've got enough energy to complain about something, you've got enough energy to do something about it. And so, yes, there's a lot of vitriol in whether it's the national or state level. You see that back and forth in the news, but really, the best advice I have when it comes to politics is, number one, learn the issues and learn the people, because we're all people. We're not titles. And whenever I am at home, at the grocery store, out at church, I'm Jason. I'm not a title. So I talk to people just as I'm Jason, and that's how we should be involved in the community. And it's not all of this back and forth, bicker, batter. If that's all it is, you're in the wrong place. You shouldn't be in politics. You're there to serve and to make things better, and then at the end, to get out.
I'm going to give you this proposal. In about 30 to 40 years, as you're traveling through Laverne with grandchildren or maybe even great-grandchildren, and you're driving through and you're sharing with your future generations things that you were involved in and made happen, and look back decades later, the pride of service, the pride of contribution of your time, your effort, your energies, your sacrifice of time from family will all come back to be there to repeat. So the pride of achievement is as strong in the political process and the governance process as any other thing you may be in. And you look at that. Is Laverne a politically active community? Do you have a high turnout on local elections, or what's the average percentage of registered voters who actually go out to vote?
Well, just like with anywhere, voting is unique, and it depends on the driving factors behind it. With early voting for this most recent election cycle, early voting was a trickle. There was very much not a wait at all. But when we got to election day, Laverne Middle School, for example, where I was at, there was a line not only out the door, but around the building, around the corner. People were lined up. They had to snake them through the actual building just so they could shut their doors to stop people from coming in whenever the polls were supposed to close. Now, I would say everything is dependent upon what election cycle there is. We're coming up on a presidential. You're going to see a much higher turnout for that. We're a unique environment because we are not red or blue. We're right there against Davidson County, which is blue. Rutherford County as a whole is red. We're more purple.
Okay.
We have Democrat representatives from the county commission in our area. We have Republicans. So we are a true mix there, and so both sides are kind of drawing people in to vote.
Do you have a high registration number?
Not, I would say we have about 19 to 20,000, and so if you've got 42,000 people, that 42,000 is including children.
Oh, everything under 18.
Yes, so I would say you're probably at 40, anywhere from 40 to 50%.
That's very good. That's very good. Now the query. Now your elections are consolidated then with the off-year elections.
Yes, we are November elections.
Tied in with the state and congressional.
Yes, sir.
It's kind of interesting. There's always been pros and cons on the consolidation in a local election, because if it's consolidated, it saves money, number one, that's key, and saves people having to go back to voting on a more frequent basis. But the point is, you're at the low end of the ballot, and by the time they get to your point, they've already gone through a congressman and a governor and a U.S. senator and a state representative and so forth. And do you usually get a good turnout of candidates filing and running?
We do. The good thing, I would say, with us being November, and yes, we're at the bottom of the ballot, but if we're doing what we're supposed to, which is staying in touch with our residents, being out there and up front versus just basically hiding behind a door, then your residents are going to come out and press that button for you, or come out and talk to you. whether it's working early voting, working polls, it's being out there and being part of that community. So it really doesn't matter where you fall on the ballot. I know people who, quite frankly, they weren't interested in the governor's race or any of the state races. They showed up just to vote in their local elections. Why? Because it impacts them more directly than any of the other ones do, because we control your property taxes. We can adjust your sales tax, your quality of life, your roads, all of that
Emergency
is controlled.
response is key.
Yes, that's all determined by your local government, not by your state or federal.
Would you say that most people are single-issue people or broad-issue people?
No, people are broad. I
Okay.
work with people who, right or left of the spectrum, regardless of where they sit, we agree on local issues, because local issues aren't left or right. It's what impacts them.
Unless you're taking a look at the question of measuring quality of community versus quantity, there are many cities that will boast on just the mere fact of population increase. And population increase is great in many areas, but does it also ensure the maintenance and expansion of quality of life?
No, not unless you specifically make those adjustments. You can have a population increase and increase over the years, but if you're not adjusting police, fire, impact fees, all of it to balance that, then what happens is your trash, your brush pickup starts falling further and further behind. Police response times, fire response times get greater and greater.
Correct.
And so you've got to have that balancing act of, as the population increases, so do your services.
Are you finding, as you mentioned, trash service, with the filling of dumps, the having to carry, move, transport trash further and further away from source of pickup, are you finding this to be a major challenge of how you pick up trash?
We don't pick up trash. We are, when it comes to the city, we take the more capitalist approach, which is, if you want trash service, you can contract with a provider, and it's going to cause competition in the marketplace for prices. We do have a convenience center. It's located on Sand Hill, and we're working with Mayor Carr and County Commissioner Davidson and Oliver and Wilson to try to get that relocated to a bigger area. But we don't handle trash pickup. It is something that if you want your trash picked up, you want to pay for a service to come to your house, you can choose to. If you want to go to the convenience center for free, you can choose to. But we don't just dictate that service, because traditionally when the government does that, number one, you're going to push other businesses out of the way, and then prices inevitably keep rising.
That's an interesting take, and it's a totally different take than I was raised down in California, because cities, did not want to be in the trash business, because being in the trash business dramatically affected your workers' comp insurance premiums, because the amount of backs that went out of men who were picking up trash was dramatic, and the amount of claims filed just drove the city's insurance rates way off the charts. But cities in California would franchise out trash, and they would call for bids and seek trash because they wanted to prevent 4 or 5 trash trucks driving the same streets, the same weeks, the same neighborhoods, and creating a greater wear and tear on the city, or even the fact of the competition for price is excellent, but the competition of quality may be different between trash haulers.
Yes.
So there was always this discussion, and probably one of the most bitter areas of city council discussion was awarding contracts, and it wasn't always the lowest price. Actually, when I was city manager of Oak Hill, we went out franchise to one contractor. And while it's, in a sense, a monopoly, probably would be considered as a public utility. That trash hauling could be considered a utility, the same as water, the same as sewer, etc. Are you much into tree planting? And I have to say that because I sit on the tree board in Brentwood, and we have our Arbor Day event coming up 2 Saturdays from now, of which we give out over 3,000 new trees out to residents to pick up and plant. Are you into tree planting?
I very much am. In fact, I think that's one of the main problems engineers have with me at Planning Commission is I'm always asking for more trees, more bushes, more landscaping, more greenery in our community versus asphalt, concrete. And so because it beautifies the community, it helps the environment, and it's pleasing as a whole to the eyes to see, well-maintained trees.
For the climate control people, I always ask this question. If we planted one tree per population in the world today, which would mean planting 8 billion trees in the world today, what impact would that have on the climate change versus anything else we do? And it would be dramatic. Probably one of the reasons we see or have seen greater carbon in the air is what has happened to the Amazon jungle area, which is where a lot of the control of air and control through the foliation of the Amazon jungle has now been removed by the need for farming, agriculture, etc. So I totally concur with the foliation. Public works people, you're right, do not like it. What do the roots do to sidewalks and curbs and streets? Trash haulers don't like it because what amount of extra bags of leaves are having to be picked up in the fall. Sometimes public safety doesn't like it because the more trees and bushes you may have, the more areas for bad people to hide behind when there's a patrol car, etc. But you are absolutely correct. And I use this example. We had the vice mayor of Murfreesboro on a few weeks ago and talking about trees. And I said, just imagine if you went on East Main Street in Murfreesboro, just east of the square, a lot of the older homes foliated by the large, beautiful trees. If you suddenly took all those trees away, what would be not only the reality, but the perceived quality of life of the lack of trees on East Main Street on the way to MTSU if you took the trees away? It's one of the interesting things with developers is that if you insist X number of trees per lot, the question is you might put that as a condition of approval, but on the other hand, who's going to maintain the trees? We'll be right back for our third and final segment on the Roundtable, and we're having a wonderful chat with the mayor of the beautiful city of Laverne, Jason Cole, and we shall be talking about what is so important to get young men and young women involved in politics.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
French's, the name to trust. French's, depend on us. French's, a great selection too. We take pride in pleasing you. Get brand names at a lower price. The French family really treats you nice. It makes good sense to shop at French's. French's Shoes and Boots.
That's French's Shoes and Boots, 1837 South Church Street in Murfreesboro.
Chip Walters here with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. I was named a top 10 agent in the #1 Exit Realty office in America in 2021. The top question I get around town, how's the market? Good question. And the answer's changed a few times this year alone. I'd like to know what you've heard and share some solid data we have. Give me a call and let's have a cup of coffee and take a look at what's happening in your neighborhood. All my contact info is right on my website, choosechip.net. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
Do you suffer from peripheral neuropathy in your hands or feet, burning pain, balance problems, and decreased quality of life? Magnolia Medical Center can help.
This is Dr. David Morris with Magnolia Medical Center. We're in the Ascend building near the fountains in Murfreesboro.
Online at magnoliamedicalcenters.com.
Here at Bud's Tire, we make buying Michelin tires simpler. I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We offer a straightforward approach to service, including nationwide warranties with every purchase. Stop in today to see our full lineup of Michelin and BF Goodrich tires. For whatever you drive, Michelin and BF Goodrich have a tire to fit any need. Bud's Tire Pros, hassle-free, guaranteed. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
Main Street Murfreesboro kicks off the first Sip, Shop, and Stroll Downtown, a ladies' night out event in the historic downtown. Thursday, March 16th, kick off St. Patrick's Day early while you visit the downtown boutiques and restaurants with your friends for a night out on the town. A little bit of sipping and a lot of shopping. Sip, Shop, and Stroll downtown Thursday, March 16th for a ladies' night out of shopping and fun. Special thanks to event sponsors Compass Insurance Group and the Preserve Murfreesboro.
We take books on trade, and we offer credit or cash.
David Jacobs with the Happy Book Stack.
We have a great kids selection, and we also offer a sensory board and a train table for your kids to play with while you shop freely.
The Happy Book Stack on Mark Allen Lane behind the Drivers Testing Center.
Hey, you know it's a leap year, right?
No, the next leap year isn't until 2024.
Nope, it's this year. I can prove it. Here, play this new instant game from the Tennessee Lottery.
Okay. Woohoo! I won!
See what you did there?
I jumped up and down?
No, that was a leap.
Don't miss your chance to jump for joy this February with our newest instant games. You could win up to $5 million. The Tennessee Lottery. Game-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Bill Krause again, third segment, and we are having a delightful visit this morning with the mayor of the beautiful city of Laverne right here in Rutherford County, Jason Cole. And you made a comment earlier, and I think it's so important that when people see you, you want to be called Jason, not mayor, not hey you. You want people to feel that you are also part of Laverne, not as a bureaucrat or not as a dictator or not as, and I'm sure you've been called this before, King Cole, old King Cole. Have you?
By my father.
Okay, I wonder. But basically, you bring the human touch into the community. What would you tell a group of high school students at Laverne High School, because I have 32 of them in dual enrollment on Friday morning, tell them why politics, besides service, is so important, and what things do you get out of it? You're spending a great amount of time besides your regular job, besides a family raising 2 children. What do you get out of it? Do you get the feeling of power, or do you get the feeling of achievement?
It's accomplishment. I'm seeing the community become better. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing my city do better. And eventually I want to take this and hand this off to the next person to run with, because I don't have all of the ideas. It doesn't all come from me. Some of the best ideas that we have implemented as a city have come from other people. I can just help champion those. Why is it important for your students and for other students to be involved is this is so impactful. You can make so many big changes that you want to see in your community. We all see all of the nightly news with the presidential, the world news, but this is something you can directly impact, whether it's through volunteering or through running for office, because you don't have to run for office to make changes. I mean, our Veterans Memorial Wall and our initial farmers market programs, I did those before running for office. Mm-hmm. I was just a resident volunteering on a board. So you can make big impacts and big changes. You just have to get in there, and that's something we're trying to do more of, is diversify our boards. We've had in the past where many people will serve on many boards, and so kind of dialing that back so that we have, you know what, this person's never served on a board before, but they're wanting to. Let's bring them in, and someone's term who's on 4 other boards is up. Since their term is up, we're not going to reappoint them. We're going to bring the new person in and bring in new ideas, a fresh set of eyes, and let that involvement blossom, because then you have more people who have a vested interest, who are stakeholders in this.
Do you recall that first spark that was lit that said, I'm a resident of Laverne, I have a great job, I work umpteen hours a week, we have a growing family? What was that first spark? Did somebody invite you? Did you get concerned about an issue? What triggered off Jason Cole to now be Mayor Cole?
It was, interestingly enough, it was right around the time that the county as a whole kind of flipped its whole government style, but it wasn't driven, at least for me, by any political left or right ideology. It was, okay, well, let's see what our local government's doing. I didn't know anybody on the board. I just showed up, started talking, asking questions. I know most of the staff looked back and they were like, who in the heck is this guy?
Yes, yes.
And that started back 4 mayors ago under Mayor Ronnie Irwin. And so just sitting through the boards, I got to witness and take part in where the Mayor Mosley had doubled property taxes and doubled water rates all at once, and seeing the community come out against that and how that impacted the city, and where that had short-term implications, long-term implications, and looking at it now, 10 years later, I can see, where those fruits have bared and where they haven't.
How would a person today hearing you this morning, living in Laverne or perhaps any other community, take that first step to express an interest in volunteering?
Well, all I have to do is either call, come down, or just look online at our boards and committees. We post both on social media and our city website, and our local Channel 3 station, all the openings for boards. And so they just have to do that. Or they can come just have a conversation. Sometimes people have different interests, and that board is full right now. Doesn't mean they can't show up to the meetings, and it doesn't mean that board and committee can't have input from the audience. It allows for them to find where they can plug in and where their talents can be best utilized.
Do you have would you share the phone number and website address?
So the address is going to be lavernetn.gov. Okay. And the phone number, I'm not shy about it. If they've got questions, they can call my city cell phone, 615-308-3565.
One more time.
615-308-3565.
And if you don't answer, we'll go into voicemail and you'll be calling back.
Absolutely.
When you talk about service, and it is a passion, it is a commitment, I used to always ask people whether they had a complaint issue or whether they were volunteering. My first question I would ask them, if you had a magic wand to make our city perfect, and of course we can't reach the goal of perfection, but come close to it, but if you had a magic wand to make Laverne perfect, what would you do with that magic wand?
Well, there's a whole lot I would do. I would, one of the big things that we've been focused on is retail growth. And that's providing both quality of service with restaurants, sit-down restaurants, not just fast food, places where you can go and buy clothing, not just Walmart, where if I, as a man, if I want to go buy a suit, I can't go buy that in Laverne. So that's something we've been focused on. So that would be one of the big items. The other one would be our infrastructure. I was having a conversation, and if you compiled every last thing that we need to do for roads, or that we can do, you're looking at $90 million.
Wow.
Well, that's a lot of money.
Yes, it is, even in a local government.
Yes, sir.
When you mention infrastructure, what are some of the more serious issues in Laverne on infrastructure, and what are some of the plans and proposals that will respond to those issues?
Well, this year we're spending more than $1 million just on road paving. And so we're handling some of our big roads like Bill Stewart, Holland Ridge. We have, as a board, approved a widening of Waldron Road, the south side, from a 2-lane road to 5 lanes, from 24 to Lake Road, and then it'll go 3 lanes from Lake Road to the Smyrna city limits.
And I'm sure you're in discussions with your counterparts in other nearby cities or the county with what do we do with I-24?
We have the SMART corridor, which has been under development for more than 6 years at this point, because I can remember it coming on whenever I was an alderman. So that's one thing, is to get it fully functioning and working so that people can be diverted different ways depending on if there's accidents. But there has to be a long-term solution to 24. The regional partners, Nashville, the state of Tennessee, Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Eagleville, Laverne, all need to be at that table to have those conversations to figure it out. So far, it's been just the state wants to figure it out, or Nashville wants to figure it out. It's not pulling everyone together.
And what's interesting is, do you see mass transit in the future as a solution, or just as an idea that's being talked about?
Right now, it's just an idea. I have not heard any very serious proposals. I was just down in Atlanta, and I could see on one of their interstates where they have a train going right through the median.
Yes.
You also have some toll roads that are elevated higher up exclusively for those uses. All residential cars, no tractor trailers. You have different options. I think we need to find the solution, though, that works for Tennessee, that works for Rutherford County, and not just say, hey, Atlanta's doing this, this is what we need to do, or San Francisco's doing this, New York. We need to find our solution, but it starts by getting everyone together, and that's something I've not seen happen yet.
But what's fascinating about what you just said is that most successful mass transits, train, streetcars in the old days and so forth, were built first and development followed the transportation. If you try to reverse it, and housing and people's residence have already been established, to attempt to bring the transportation to be convenient and willing to be accessible by people is a lot more difficult situation. I haven't followed recently the ridership on the train from Wilson County to downtown, even in terms on sports events of how many people will hop on the train in Mount Juliet or Lebanon and be dropped off right near the stadium to watch a Titans game. We don't know whether people are that willing to give up their cars to become more transit efficient.
Well, you don't know, but that and again, that's part of the communication aspect of it. You've got to have basically boots on the ground, have those conversations, start that up, and go from there. Currently, I know Nashville several years ago tried to implement a plan, and then that was voted down by their residents.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever that happened, pretty much all discussion stopped.
The last thing I'd like to talk about, because it's a very serious issue, not necessarily locally, but certainly nationally, we have had for years and years, and it certainly is the basis of our democracy and basis of who we are, the ability, willingness to talk to each other even if we disagree, to have different opinions, both sides of the case. I present mine, you present yours. We may not agree. We can agree to disagree. But what is really concerning me as a political scientist, and for many, many years, is one of the first times that I'm seeing as the issue truth. Are we hearing truth? And I'm probably talking more about national levels. Are we hearing things that are true, or does the conflict occur when we're challenging the truth rather than discussing a secondary issue of the truth? Any comments on that?
Well, we get into these echo chambers, and we believe our truth is the truth, and that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than go out and have opinions and ideas challenged, we stay in these echo chambers that just reinforce that. So for me, I have community meetups every month. We have discussions, whether it's someone's upset with a new housing project, whatever it is, we're right there to have those conversations so that you're not just staying in an echo chamber of whether it's national news or whether it's social media or even just a group of friends. You're able to sit down and talk with the people who actually know and are engaged with these things, and then have those conversations, and at the very least, you're heard. Because we may not agree on something, or something may already be done. There's a townhome development I wish was never done. I had no say in it. I can't stop it now, though, even though I'm the mayor. So it's staying outside of those echo chambers and trying to have those conversations and dig deeper. Don't just listen to those that are around you that are the exact same political persuasion. You've got to get out and challenge that, and you've got to seek out what the facts are, because what your truth and my truth, what everyone feels is their individual truths in this day and age, isn't necessarily the truth.
With that certainly ties us all together. I am so optimistic, quite frankly, after this last hour about the city of Laverne. And I'll say this not to be ingratiating, but to be as a significant observer. Laverne is most fortunate to have you as their mayor. And you are the poster boy for what the political leadership is, what we need locally, what we need statewide, and what we certainly need nationwide. Keep up the great work. Keep up that passion. Keep up that commitment. We've had Mayor Jason Cole of the city of Laverne with us, who brings to us a very fresh and a very open commitment. We will see you next week. Have a wonderful week, friends.